Can you tell your master to sell one to me? Hearing this, Leng Hua smiled gently and said, Since Patriarch Yang has spoken, I will tell my master about this matter. I believe that not only because of young Lady Yang's face, but also because Patriarch Yang readily sold this building to us, my master will also make an exception for Patriarch Yang. He spoke slowly. These few words made Patriarch Yang's heart burst with joy. His impression of Leng Hua suddenly improved, and he felt that he had gained face in front of his old friends. He was very happy. Chapter 1962. As soon as he finished speaking, he didn't forget to turn around and look at the envious and jealous people. Although he didn't say anything, his expression seemed to say, Look, my face is still bigger, right? Leng Hua smiled. After saying goodbye, he was about to turn around and leave, but he was stopped by those people. Manager Leng, look this. One of them stepped forward and rubbed his hands. He also wanted a breakthrough energy pill. Leng Hua didn't wait for them to speak. He smiled and said, Everyone take your time. Besides the first floor, there are also many good things on the second floor. He pointed to the staircase on the second floor and said, With your wealth and strength, you are already qualified to go up to the second floor. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left, not giving them a chance to speak. The second floor? By the way, they said that the things on the second floor are better. The first floor only has some ordinary things. Should we go up and take a look? One of them suggested. Let's go. There's nothing wrong with going up and taking a look. Another person also said and walked toward the staircase on the second floor. However, at this moment, a noise came from outside the door, and they couldn't help but stop in their tracks. Look, the president of the Alchemy Guild is here. Don't tell me they're here to cause trouble? After all, the Heavenly Pill House made such a big commotion. Will they? It shouldn't be, right? No matter what, he is still the president of the Alchemy Guild. Moreover, this president is not the vice president. If it were the vice president, it would be possible. But if it's the president, you can rest assured. He is a very fair and upright person. He shouldn't play any dirty tricks. Listening to the whispers of the crowd, the vice president, who was following behind the president, blushed and glanced at those people angrily. However, he couldn't vent his anger because the president was here. Otherwise, he would definitely teach these people a lesson. Today is the grand opening of the Heavenly Pill House. We came here to congratulate you. I wonder who is the manager of this house? The president asked with a smile as his gaze swept across the crowd. Du Fan and Leng Hua looked at each other and walked forward at the same time. We are the managers of the Heavenly Pill House. My surname is Leng. My surname is Du. The two introduced each other briefly. After that, Du Fan didn't say anything else. Instead, he glanced at Leng Hua. Leng Hua asked warmly, How should I address you? My surname is Fan, and I am the president of the Alchemy Guild in 100 River City. You can call me President Fan. He smiled and gestured behind him as he said, I'm here today to congratulate the Tower Lord. It's just a small token of appreciation. Leng Hua smiled and said, President Fan, you're exaggerating. My master has already instructed that the Heavenly Elixir Building will only receive guests and not gifts. President Fan, you might as well take back your gift and take a look around our Heavenly Elixir Building first. How dare you? The vice president behind him shouted sternly. He glared at Leng Hua and shouted, The president personally came to deliver the congratulatory gift because he wanted to meet the owner of this building. How dare you, a lowly steward, so rudely refuse? Facing his rebuke, Leng Hua smiled gently and asked, How should I address you? I am the vice president of the Alchemy Guild. He puffed out his chest and raised his chin. Chapter 1963. The young man in front of him had only asked a question and then ignored him. The vice president's heart burned with anger. He was a little angry but also a little embarrassed. He was the vice president of the Alchemy Guild. This young man actually dared to ignore him like this. He was really arrogant and didn't know any manners. Yet just as he was about to angrily rebuke him, he caught a glimpse of the guild president's gaze. He couldn't help but swallow his anger. In that case, I'll put away this gift first. He waved his hand, indicating for the alchemist to put away the gift and leave. Then, he said to Leng Hua, I just don't know if I could trouble Steward Leng to accompany me and explain? I'd be honored. Leng Hua made a gesture of invitation and walked inside with him. The people who were paying attention to this side all dispersed. Although they didn't stare at them anymore, they still secretly paid attention to them. As they walked inside, Leng Hua said warmly from the side, the pills on this floor are all listed as ordinary by my master. In addition to the pills, there are also some commonly used medicines and things like knife wound powder. They looked around while listening to Leng Hua's explanation. When they saw that there were only medicine bottles placed in the cabinets but no pills, they frowned slightly. They didn't see any pills. There was only a medicine bottle and some notes with the pill's grade and price written on it. As they walked further inside, they saw a pill placed in a cabinet. When they saw the pill, the alchemists behind the guild president narrowed their eyes and quickly walked forward. This is a 4th level pill? A 4th level pill is just an ordinary pill? Look at the color of this pill and how beautiful the pill patterns are. This is a top-grade 4th level pill. This kind of pill is actually listed as an ordinary pill? What a waste of God's gift. An alchemist said with an agitated expression. His expression was indignant, as if he felt that such a precious pill shouldn't be listed as an ordinary pill. Hearing the alchemist's words, the people around laughed in low voices. Is this a waste of God's gift appropriate? Is this alchemist too excited? Cough. The president in front coughed lightly and shot a glance at the agitated and indignant alchemist. Lower your voice. You are not allowed to make a ruckus in here. While speaking, he pointed to a few words hanging on the wall that prohibited loud ruckus. When the alchemist saw that everyone was looking at him, his face couldn't help but turn red. He responded with a yes before lowering his eyes. However, his gaze still occasionally glanced towards the 4th grade upper grade medicinal pill on the counter, his eyes filled with admiration. If such a medicinal pill was only an ordinary medicinal pill, then what would a medicinal pill be like if it was classified as a rare medicinal pill? Thinking of this, his heart was filled with excitement, and he was full of expectations for the heavenly pill house. At this time, he no longer had his original anger and disdain. Just from the fact that it was a 4th stage upper grade pill, he already knew that there was definitely a heavyweight alchemist in charge. Leng Hua maintained a warm smile on his face. He looked at them and gestured for them to enter. The pill in the center in front of us is the strange fragrance pill. It's a pill newly refined by my master. The strange fragrance that fills the city is also the fragrance of this strange fragrance pill. Chapter 1964. That's right, Leng Hua replied and didn't say anything else. Instead, he let them look at the pill by themselves. The president of the Alchemist Guild smelled the medicinal fragrance and looked at the fist-sized pill. His face was filled with astonishment as he exclaimed, "This should be a pill refined from over 100 types of precious spiritual flowers. From the color and medicinal fragrance of the pill, I can tell that this is definitely a precious item." Leng Hua stood to the side and didn't say anything else. These people were the president of the Alchemy Guild, so they could naturally tell how good the pill was. "Manager Leng, I want this Origin Breaker pill." An alchemist pointed at the pill placed in the corner of the counter and said. Leng Hua glanced at the pill and smiled slightly. This Origin Breaker pill has been sold out. Not only this one, but most of the pills on the 1st floor had already been reserved. You can go to the 2nd floor to take a look. There aren't many pills on the 2nd floor, but every one of them is definitely a treasure among treasures. Leng Hua gestured to them and invited them to go to the 2nd floor. Seeing this, the president nodded and said with a smile, "All right, let's go to the 2nd floor to take a look at the precious pills of the Heavenly Pill Building." As he said this, he walked forward, only to see a few familiar people standing on the stairs of the 2nd floor. "Patriarchs, you're here too?" He greeted them with a smile. "Hee, President Fan, long time no see." The patriarchs standing at the stairs also smiled and returned the greeting. They said, "We were just about to go to the 2nd floor to take a look. Since President Fan is here too, please come with us." "Please go ahead," President Fan said and gestured for them to go first. They didn't refuse and went up to the second floor first. Then the people from the Alchemy Guild followed. Seeing them go up to the second floor, a man also wanted to go up to the second floor to take a look. However, he was stopped at the stairs. There are rules to go up to the second floor. This guest can take a look at the rules first. The person who was stopped glanced at the man who stopped him from going up, then looked at the wooden sign hanging at the side. After reading the words written on it for a while, he retreated with a red face. Someone curiously went up to take a look and saw that it said that the people who went up to the second floor not only had to have a certain amount of gold coins, they also had to be people with status. Moreover, they had to register their information in the Heavenly Pill House's book. That's normal. If you don't have the money, you can't buy it. That's true. The pills on the first floor are already not cheap, not to mention the second floor. However, I think there must be a lot of life-saving pills on the second floor. Even if the price is expensive, at least it gives people hope. I think it's good. That's right. Speaking of which, the Heavenly Pill Building opened today, but I didn't see the owner of the Heavenly Pill Building. What kind of person? It should be an old man. I heard that these pills were personally refined by the Heavenly Pill House's owner. He must be an experienced old man with the ability to refine pills and make medicine. That's true. I think he'll be an old man with a sage-like demeanor. Chapter 1965. This is a sixth grade elixir? One of the family heads was almost lying on top of the transparent counter. His eyes were wide open as he stared at the elixir placed on the counter. He couldn't hide the shock and excitement in his eyes. Lung Hua glanced at the elixir and smiled. Yes, this is a sixth grade elixir. This elixir is an advancement elixir. Cultivators of the fairy realm can break through after consuming it. This is a fifth grade recovery elixir. Isn't this a healing elixir? This color, this elixir pattern, this. Another family head also widened his eyes as he stared at the other elixir on the counter. This elixir. A few people gathered around a bottle of elixir. Looking at the words written on a small piece of paper in front of the elixir, they couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Can it really increase one's combat power in an instant? This is a sixth grade recovery elixir? Hiss. How heaven-defying must the person who refined this elixir be? This bottle looks a little familiar. I think I've seen it somewhere before. One of them stared at the bottle and thought for a while. Suddenly, he slapped his forehead. Ah, I remember now. This is the special bottle used by the ghost Dr. Fengjiu. He suddenly turned his head to look at the young man standing not far away. Your master is the ghost Dr. Fengjiu? The owner of this Heavenly Pill House is Fengjiu? He's the ghost doctor? Hearing this, the others were slightly startled. Who was this ghost Dr. Fengjiu? Was he famous? Why hadn't they heard of him? Is that so? Is your master Fengjiu the ghost doctor? Is the owner of this Heavenly Pill House the ghost doctor? The middle-aged man looked excited as he quickly walked in front of Lung Hua and asked. Seeing this, everyone's gazes fell on the gentle young man in white. They thought to themselves, when we go back, we have to find out who this ghost Dr. Fengjiu is. Why was the Yen clan head so agitated when he mentioned the ghost Dr. Fengjiu? Lung Hua smiled warmly, slowly saying, That's right, my master is the ghost doctor. As his voice fell, he looked at Patriarch Yen and said, Patriarch Yen has good eyesight. Hearing the confirmation, Patriarch Yen was so excited that his face turned red. It really is the ghost doctor's pill. This is great. This is great. Manager Lung, I want this medicinal pill. This one and this one, I want both of them. As if he was afraid that someone else would beat him to it, he hurriedly pointed at the two pills that caught his eye. Lung Hua smiled and said, In addition to the price of the medicinal pills on the second floor, you also need to exchange 3 spirit herbs to obtain them. Patriarch Yen, do you have the spirit herbs listed on each medicinal pill in your residence? Yes, I happen to have all of them at home. Patriarch Yen hurriedly said. Seeing this, Lung Hua said, Then I'll call someone to register for Patriarch Yen first. Later, we'll need to test the pills. Patriarch Yen can return to his residence during this period of time to prepare the items and bring them here. Once the pills are tested, you can bring them back. Good
Good, good.
I'll immediately go back and prepare. As he spoke, Leng Hua beckoned for someone to come over. He walked a few steps with that person, then turned back. Manager Leng, you must leave these 2 pills for me. I'll return immediately. Chapter 1966. Leng Hua didn't say much. He just accompanied them on the 2nd floor. Among them, some of the family heads took a fancy to the elixir, but they didn't have the corresponding 3 medicinal herbs to exchange for it. They asked, Manager Leng, can these 3 medicinal herbs be exchanged for gold coins? I don't have these 3 medicinal herbs in my residence, but I need this elixir very much. Do you think you can make it easier for me? I'm sorry, this is the rule set by my master. I can't break it, Leng Hua said warmly. What if I pay double the price? The family had asked, unwilling to give up. However, before Leng Hua could speak, someone next to him sneered. Do you think you can do anything with money? Do you think this heavenly pill house is short of money? It was a slightly plump middle-aged man in brocade clothes. He held his stomach with both hands and looked at Leng Hua. Manager Leng, I want this elixir. My family happens to have these 3 medicinal herbs. As he spoke, he glanced at the family head with some pride. It seems that this elixir is not fated with you. Okay, let's follow the procedure, Leng Hua said. Suddenly, he heard a commotion downstairs. He couldn't help but frown slightly and said to the air, Go down and see what's going on. Yes, a voice in the dark responded. Then, they saw a black figure flash out like a ghost. It was so fast that they were stunned. They knew that someone was watching them, but they didn't expect that the person in the dark on the 2nd floor would be so good at hiding his aura. That person's speed was so fast. The black-clothed man flashed down, but they couldn't detect how many people were watching them in the dark on the 2nd floor. What surprised them even more was that this young man in white with a gentle smile on his face could mobilize such a powerful person with just a few words. It was obvious that he was not simple. Thinking of this, they couldn't help but carefully size up the young man in front of them. This young man didn't look old, but his behavior was calm and his face was gentle. He looked like he didn't have a temper. More importantly, the people present were not weak, but they couldn't see through this young man's cultivation. Was he stronger than them? So they couldn't see through his strength? That shouldn't be possible. Otherwise, did he practice some cultivation method to hide his strength? While they were guessing, the black figure who had left earlier flashed again and appeared behind Leng Hua. He whispered a few words. Everyone, you can take a look. If there's anyone who's interested and has the appropriate medicine at home, you can get someone to register you. We'll have someone to handle the handover. Leng Hua said warmly, then paused and said, Something happened downstairs. I'll go down and take a look.
Excuse me.
The president of the Alchemy Guild nodded and said with a smile. He watched the young man turn around and leave. Only then did he look at the pills. It had to be said that the pills on the 2nd floor were more precious than those on the 1st floor. Any one of the pills here was enough to make people go crazy. However, the Heavenly Pill House actually put them out like this. Such boldness was not something an ordinary person would have. Seeing Leng Hua leave and hearing that something had happened on the 1st floor, some of the family heads walked around. The more they looked, the more their hearts itched. They only had money, and their families either lacked 1 or 2 of the 3 medicinal herbs. Some of them didn't even have one. While they were sighing in their hearts, they put on a strong front. Chapter 1967. If he continued to look, he would not be able to buy the elixir he wanted. If he continued to look, he would only feel an unbearable itch in his heart. It was a pity that he could not buy the elixirs on the 2nd floor, even if he had the money. Then he would go to the 1st floor to take a look. He might even be able to buy 1 or 2. At this time, the crowd on the 1st floor had gathered in a circle and were whispering to each other. In the middle of the crowd, an old man was lying motionless on the ground. His face was dark purple, and his lips and eyes were purple. He looked as if he had been poisoned. This person looks unfamiliar. He shouldn't be from our 100 Rivers city. Why did he barge in from outside just now? This person's cultivation level is at the peak of the fairy realm. This kind of strength is not weak. Even among the big families in our city, he can be considered a figure. He is still injured. Look, there is a trace of blood on his chest. Moreover, the blood has already turned black. It looks like he has been poisoned. So, this person should not have been sent by the other elixir stores in the city to cause trouble for the heavenly elixir building? It doesn't look like it. However, this person did not go anywhere else, but barged in here with injuries. When they saw him barge in from outside just now, many people were shocked. Who would have thought that he would fall down after just a few steps? Fan Lin, who was surrounded in the middle, helped the unconscious old man on the ground feel his pulse. He then said to Du Fan, who was beside him, "He has been poisoned. The poison has entered his veins, and all his internal organs have been damaged. He is only hanging on by a thread." Upon hearing this, Du Fan nodded. When he saw Leng Hua, he whispered something to him, then called out, "Someone, carry him to the backyard." Hearing this, the crowd was slightly surprised. Carry him to the backyard? Were the people from the heavenly elixir building preparing to treat him? Just as they were all puzzled, they heard a voice.
Wait.
The vice president walked down from above, glanced at Du Fan and Leng Hua, and sneered. "Isn't your Heavenly Dan building's pill known as the Heavenly Dan pill? It is said that the Tower Master has the medical skills to bring the dead back to life. Now that there is a poisoned and injured person here, why don't we invite the Tower Master to treat this person, and let us all witness the Tower Master's medical skills?" Hearing this, everyone had different expressions. This person looked like he only had a single breath left. Let the people of the Heavenly Pill House treat him? If he died, wouldn't that mean at the same time, in the attic on the 3rd floor, Fengjie was resting on a soft couch with her eyes closed. She didn't know what was happening downstairs because Xianyuan Mose, who was sitting next to her, had set up a soundproof barrier so that she could have a good sleep. Therefore, they didn't know what was happening on the 1st floor. It wasn't until Leng Hua knocked on the door that Fengjie slowly woke up. "You're awake?" Xianyuan Mose asked, looking at her sleepy face. "Yes, I heard someone knocking on the door." Fengjie rubbed her eyes, looked at Xianyuan Mose, and then looked at Leng Hua, who was standing next to her. "What's wrong? Is there something wrong?" If there's nothing wrong, Leng Hua shouldn't have come up. "Master, the 1st floor." Leng Hua briefly explained what had happened on the 1st floor, including the vice president's provocation. After hearing this, Fengjie raised the corners of her mouth and smiled. "It's just a vice president. Don't pay attention to him." Chapter 1968. Do you know him? When Xianyuan Mose saw her expression, he knew that she must know the old man downstairs. They probably had some kind of relationship. "Yes," Fengjie responded and said to Leng Hua, "Carry him to the backyard." "Yes," Leng Hua responded and quickly turned to go downstairs. "I'll go down and take a look. You sit down first," she said to Xianyuan Mose and followed him downstairs to the backyard. At this time, the atmosphere on the 1st floor became a little strange because of the vice president's words. The people around them stopped whispering and looked at them, wondering how the Heavenly Pill building would deal with this matter. From the looks of it, the vice president of the Alchemy Guild wouldn't let this matter pass so easily. Even if the people of the Heavenly Pill building didn't treat the old man, dragging it out until the old man died in the Heavenly Pill building would damage the reputation of the Heavenly Pill building. After all, today was their first day of business. If someone died on their first day of business, it would be bad luck. "Master ordered us to send him to the backyard." Leng Hua's voice came from behind. Everyone stepped aside and saw 2 men preparing to carry the old man. However, when the vice president saw this scene, he shouted again, "Wait a minute." Leng Hua frowned slightly, and Du Fan's face turned cold. However, this time, before they could speak, they heard a voice. "The vice president has repeatedly stopped me."
Why?
"Do you have the ability to treat him?" A cold voice came from somewhere and echoed in the Heavenly Pill building. Whether it was the 1st floor or the 2nd floor, everyone could hear the voice clearly. When the vice president heard this voice, he was delighted and immediately asked, "Are you the master of the Heavenly Pill building?" He finally forced him out. However, why did this voice sound like a woman? The old man in front of the vice president's life is hanging by a thread, and you still have the mind to ask me who I am and stall for time. This mentality is really shameless. Your behavior is really inconsistent with your title as the vice president of the Alchemy Guild. While Feng Jiu was speaking, Leng Hua had already ordered people to carry the old man to the backyard. Seeing the man being carried away, the vice president, who had been mocked and ridiculed, turned red. He swung his sleeves and shouted angrily, "Humph! You little girl! How impudent! I think you're a coward. Otherwise, why would you hide your head and not dare to show your face?" Before he could finish his words, he suddenly felt a powerful pressure pressing down on him, forcing him to bend over and kneel down involuntarily. At the same time, he let out a muffled groan as the blood in his body surged. A mouthful of heart blood gushed out from his throat and spilled out from the corner of his mouth. At this moment, he was greatly shocked. His face turned deathly pale with a swoosh, and his body was trembling. A kind of fear that surged from the depths of his heart suddenly enveloped him, causing him to be unable to say a word. He only knew extreme fear, as if his heart and blood vessels would explode in the next moment. As long as the other party thought about it, he would immediately die. How can this monarch's woman be lectured by an ant like you? You really don't know life from death. Xianyuan Mose's voice came from the attic. Even if he didn't come down, the powerful pressure pressed down on the vice president's body. It was as if Mount Tai was pressing down on him, causing his face to turn pale, and he couldn't say a word. Chapter 1969. His face was pale, and his body was forced to bend down by the powerful pressure. He was almost lying on the ground as if he couldn't breathe, but he couldn't call for help. Seeing this, he was horrified. He hurried to the first floor, cupped his hands, and said, "Please be magnanimous. He didn't mean to offend you. Get out of the Heavenly Pill building." Xianyuan Mose's deep voice rang out. He withdrew his pressure, and the kneeling vice president fell to the ground and fainted. "Quick, send him back," the president of the Alchemist Guild hurriedly said to the alchemists behind him. The alchemists came back to their senses and quickly went forward to help the unconscious vice president up. They quickly brought him out and went to the Alchemist Guild. When President Fan saw this, he couldn't help but sigh in relief. He wondered who the person upstairs was. His pressure was so powerful. If he didn't withdraw his pressure, would he have taken the vice president's life? He had no doubt about this. After letting out a light breath and calming down for a while, he suddenly realized that the unconscious old man had been carried away. After such a thing happened on the first floor, there were still no other accidents or trouble. It seemed that there were indeed many people guarding inside and outside, so no one dared to cause trouble here. Only the vice president, who didn't have a brain, would have the courage to scold the people of the Heavenly Pill building. He was really tired of living. At this time, in the backyard, Fengju looked at the old man with purple lips and frowned. This old man was none other than Elder Tan. However, she didn't expect to see Elder Tan in Hundred River City and under such circumstances. "Master, it seems like he's being chased." Fan Lin glanced at the old man and said, "Moreover, he's poisoned. The poison has entered his meridians, and only a 5th-grade detoxification pill or above can detoxify the poison in his body. In addition to the poison, his internal organs are also damaged. If you want to save him, I'm afraid, although he knew that his master's medical skills were brilliant, this old man had already stepped into the gates of hell. If he wanted to save him, it would consume a lot of pills and manpower. I know this person. No matter what, since we're here, we have to save him," she said slowly. She knew that Fan Lin's concern was that after saving Elder Tan, the enemies behind him would target the Heavenly Pill building. She took out a 5th-grade detoxification pill from the space and let Fan Lin feed it. Then, she checked Elder Tan again. After Fan Lin fed the 5th-grade detoxification pill to the old man's mouth, he stood aside and waited to help his master. Seeing her examine the old man and then take out the silver needles, he stepped forward and untied the old man's clothes. His shirt was undone, but He only saw a small wound on his chest that was oozing black blood. He didn't see any hidden weapons, so he was puzzled. He saw his master reach out and press on the side, then inserted a few needles, temporarily sealing the blood flowing on his chest. She then saw her master take out a sharp knife and make a small cut on the wound. She then used a pair of tweezers to examine the wound. Not long after, she saw the tweezers pick out a small hidden weapon. Chapter 1970. Master, this kind of hidden weapon is very strange. I've never seen it before. He looked at the hidden weapon with surprise. Such a small hidden weapon couldn't be found in the wound at all. If it was an ordinary person, they would probably think that the hidden weapon in the wound had been removed and delay the treatment. Fortunately, this person met his master. When the hidden weapon was removed, a stream of black blood spurted out from the wound. Fengjiu cleaned the wound and pulled out the silver needles. Then he stepped back and cleaned his hands. He said to Fan Lin, "Bandage the wound."
Yes.
Fan Lin responded. After applying medicine to the wound, he began to bandage it. Fengjiu picked up the hidden weapon and looked at it. His eyes moved slightly. This kind of hidden weapon was indeed never seen before, and this kind of hidden weapon was even more fatal. When the poisoned person fell into a coma, even an experienced doctor would find it difficult to discover such a small hidden weapon in the wound. A moment of carelessness would cause the poisoned person to miss the opportunity to receive treatment and thus be fatal. Who on earth could have done this to Elder Tan? To actually use such a tyrannical poison, as well as such a hidden weapon? He thought of how Elder Tan had hidden his cultivation and stayed in that town to make a living as a small trader. That kind of life should have been peaceful and stable. How could it have been broken so suddenly? Logically speaking, the people from the Temple of Darkness couldn't have done anything to him. Then it should be his enemy? Fan Lin, have someone guard him and take good care of him. She took out a bottle of medicine and handed it to him. If he doesn't wake up by tonight, feed this medicine to him. Yes, master, don't worry. I will personally guard him. Fan Lin nodded in response. He took the medicine and put it away. Have someone keep an eye on him. I don't think it will be peaceful in the next 2 days. She looked at Leng Hua and said,
Yes.
Leng Hua responded. Then he turned and walked out. However, at this moment, an old voice carrying a powerful pressure came from outside. Hand him over to us. The voice was filled with a powerful aura. As soon as the voice came out, the pressure of an expert shook the eardrums of everyone inside the Heavenly Dan building, causing the blood in their bodies to surge. They had a faint feeling that they were about to break out of their bodies, causing everyone to feel fear in their hearts. They all rushed out of the Heavenly Dan building and quickly dispersed, not daring to get close to the Heavenly Dan building. This is definitely not a fairy realm expert. He must be a celestial sage expert. That's right. Only celestial saints are capable of exerting such pressure and terrifying force. I told you that the old man who was carried into the backyard by the Heavenly Dan building's people isn't from our 100 River City, right? That old man was a nuisance. Look, didn't he provoke an enemy to hunt him down? This Heavenly Pill House's opening today is going to be a disaster. A celestial sage expert. In our city, only the patriarchs of those families have such strength. This Heavenly Dan building has provoked such a person. I'm afraid it's going to be troublesome. Not necessarily. It's said that this Heavenly Dan building also has a strong force, and the force behind it is extremely shocking. The voice just now directly exerted a pressure, and the vice president of the Alchemy Guild knelt down. It can be seen that he is definitely a celestial sage expert. It's possible. However, is the owner of this Heavenly Dan building the man or the woman who spoke? Chapter 1971. Therefore, they were able to stand far away from the Heavenly Pill building as spectators, watching the 4 people surrounding the Heavenly Pill building. 2 of the 4 people looked like middle-aged men. One of them looked like a woman in her 30s, while the other was an old man in gray who stood with his hands behind his back. The 4 of them had extraordinary strength, and the pressure they exuded was very intimidating. The 4 of them stood at 4 corners not far from the Heavenly Pill building, preventing the people in the building from escaping. Obviously, They were determined to obtain the injured old man. However, even though they had surrounded the heavenly pill building, even though they were powerful, and even though they knew that the old man they wanted was in the building, they did not rush in to snatch him. Instead, they asked the people in the heavenly pill building to hand over the old man. Obviously, they did not want to become enemies with the heavenly pill building. When the 4 people standing on the surrounding rooftops smelled the medicinal fragrance in the air, their eyes flashed. Surprise and shock flashed across their eyes. Such a rich medicinal fragrance permeated the entire 100 Rivers city. Such a medicinal fragrance was not ordinary. What was the background of the heavenly pill building? Who was the alchemist who could refine such a strange fragrance? It was precisely because of these doubts in their hearts that they became fearful. As long as the other party handed over the person they wanted, they would not have to be enemies with them. In the heavenly pill building, Patriarch Yang looked at Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mose, who were slowly walking out. A complicated look flashed across his eyes. He paused for a moment, then stepped forward and said, "The strength of the people outside is extraordinary. I advise you not to get involved in this trouble if you don't have any friendship with the unconscious old man." Yang Xiao, who was next to him, looked worried. However, she did not say anything and just looked at them quietly. Hearing Patriarch Yang's words, Fengjiu curled his lips and smiled. "That old man happens to have some friendship with me. I'm afraid I have to take care of this matter." As she spoke, she glanced at the father and daughter and said, "Today's hospitality was not satisfactory. I don't know what will happen later. It's not safe for you to stay in this building. It's better for you to leave first." "If that's the case, then I and my daughter will take our leave first." Yang family had cupped his hands and said, dragging his daughter away. After all, he knew in his heart that if the 2 sides really fought, they would not be safe here. If one of them was regarded as a member of the heavenly pill building, it would be troublesome. "Hey, big sister Feng. Big brother Leng Hua, you have to be careful." Yang Xiao shouted and was pulled out by her father. Just as the surrounding crowd was watching and the 4 people were staring at the heavenly pill building, they saw the father and daughter of the Yang family quickly walk out from inside and retreat into the distance with the crowd. Not long after, 2 more people walked out of the gate of the heavenly pill building. These 2 people were the 2 stewards, Leng Hua and Du Fan. After that, 2 figures, one black and one red, walked out side by side. They stood in front of the heavenly pill building and looked at the 4 people. "I'm the owner of the heavenly pill building. Who are you looking for?" Fengjiu stood beside Xianyuan Mose. Her voice was cold and carried a trace of laziness. She looked at the gray-robed old man in front of her. With just a glance, she could tell that he was an expert at the peak of the celestial saint realm. As for the other 3 people, 2 of them were at the peak of the fairy realm, while the other one was at the intermediate stage of the celestial saint realm. Chapter 1972. Everyone looked at the woman in red who had spoken and could not help but cry out in surprise. For a moment, everyone's gaze fell on the dazzling red figure. She was an extremely beautiful woman. Her appearance could be said to be peerless. Anyone who saw her would be shocked by her appearance, not to mention her extremely outstanding and unique temperament. In the immortal cultivation world, there were many beautiful women. After seeing so many beauties, they had long been immune to women's beauty. However, when they saw this woman, they still couldn't help but stare blankly at her. They couldn't help but secretly praise her. What a peerless beauty of peerless beauty. Her dazzling red clothes set off her beautiful appearance even more eye-catching. Her exquisite figure, the languid charm she exuded when she raised her hands and feet, the moving expression in her clear eyes, and the faintly discernible smile on her lips all exuded a unique charm. All of them made people hold their breaths and their hearts beat faster. This was a peerless, enchanting beauty. This was a peerless beauty whose every move, every frown, and every smile was enchanting. However, it just so happened that such an enchanting and beautiful woman had an unbridled and flamboyant expression between her brows. The confidence that was emitted from her heart made her appear even more different than she was before. Such a woman was the owner of the Heavenly Pill building? Those elixirs were all made by her? Thinking of this, everyone was shocked and felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. They had originally thought that the alchemist who could refine those peerless elixirs would definitely be a white-haired old man. However, they did not expect that it would be such a charming and enchanting beauty. Not only were the surrounding people shocked and felt that it was inconceivable, but even the 4 people who were looking at the enchanting woman in red standing in front of the Heavenly Pill building had a strange look in their eyes. This woman actually had 2 unique auras. One was enchanting, and the other was cold. Moreover, this unique temperament was something that they had never seen before, even though they had seen countless people. Xianyuan Mose, who was standing beside Fengjiu, wore a silver mask on his face. Although his face was not revealed, the aura of a powerhouse still made the 4 people somewhat fearful. They could faintly sense a dangerous aura. If it was said that the dazzling red-clothed woman made them wary, then this black-robed masked man made them fearful. This man was standing beside the woman in red. Even though he didn't reveal his aura, they still felt that he was dangerous, very dangerous. The other 3 looked at the gray-robed elder, waiting for him to make the decision. Seeing this, the gray-clothed old man said in a deep voice, "Someone broke into your building earlier. I hope that the Tower Lord can return the person to us."
Oh.
The person from before? Fengjiu played with the hair that fell in front of his chest and smiled. That person was poisoned and his internal organs were damaged. Didn't he already die? Our master has given orders. If he's alive, we want to see him. If he's dead, we want to see his corpse. It would be better for the Tower Lord to return the person to us. The gray-robed elder said in a gloomy voice, his brows tightly knitted together. If he wasn't a little afraid of them, why would he need to say so much to them? If it were anyone else, they would have already taken action. Chapter 1973. As soon as these words were spoken, the air suddenly turned cold, and a powerful pressure instantly enveloped the Heavenly Dan building. It was a pressure that came from all directions, directly pressuring the Heavenly Dan building towards Fengjiu and the others. Disposed of?
Huh?
Do you think we will believe you? The gray-robed old man asked in a gloomy voice, and his malicious gaze was directed at Fengjiu. The invisible pressure turned into spiritual thorns that pierced toward Fengjiu's divine sense. If an ordinary person's divine sense was attacked by a peak celestial sage's divine sense, they would not be able to withstand it. However, Fengjiu's expression did not change, and a smile that did not reach his eyes appeared on his beautiful face. If you don't believe me, what are you going to do? As soon as he finished speaking, the 4 people moved their hands, holding weapons in their hands, and said, "If he is alive, we want to see him. If he is dead, we want to see his corpse. If you don't hand over the corpse, don't blame us for being impolite." Are you planning to fight? Fengjiu curled the corners of his lips. You should think about it carefully. If you fight, you won't have a chance to turn back and escape. Is that so? Then we would like to experience your skills. Let me deal with you first. Among the 4 people, the weakest cultivator at the peak of the fairy realm shouted in a deep voice, and he attacked Fengjiu with a long sword in his hand. The moment he rushed out, the spiritual aura on his body burst out, and the sharp sword in his hand was suffused with a layer of sharp, cold light. Sword chi whistled out, and the sword chi was threatening. In the crowd, Yang Xiao held her breath nervously and looked at the scene in front of her with worry. She could not help but tug at her father's sleeve and ask, "Father, can Sister Feng and the others defeat those people?" Looking at the calm Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mose, Master Yang thought for a while and said, "They should be able to." After all, even he could not see the depth of their strength. Moreover, if they did not have a certain degree of confidence, how would they dare to provoke these people? However, he did not know what level their strength was at. How were they going to fight these people? While they were watching, they saw that neither Xianyuan Mose nor Fengjiu in red made a move. They just stood there quietly and watched. Fengjiu even had a faint smile on his face, as if he didn't care about the person who was attacking him. Just as everyone was worried about her, they saw a gray figure rush out from the heavenly pill building and attack the cultivator at the peak of the fairy realm. At the same time, a cold snort was heard. "You want to fight with my master? You have to get past me first." Clang. The weapons in their hands clashed against each other, producing a clear clanging sound. The pressure of the peak of the fairy realm spread out as the two of them exchanged blows, filling the air. The airflow that could be seen with the naked eye surged and collided with each other, producing a whistling sound as they brandished their weapons.
Swish.
Clang.
Clang. Swish.
As the two figures fought, a gust of airflow surged up into the sky. Sword chi and blade light flew in all directions, shocking the crowd and causing them to retreat again. On top of the heavenly pill building, a few black-clothed men were standing there, blocking the sword chi to prevent the sword chi from destroying the heavenly pill building. Hiss. Chapter 1974. What do you mean by using a sledgehammer to crack a nut? It's obvious that the heavenly elixir building is powerful. Look at the few people who came out. Which one of them has the strength to be called the best in the 100 Rivers City? Who knows how many powerhouses are hiding among them? That's true. Otherwise, why would they dare to put such precious elixirs in the heavenly elixir building for people to admire? It seems like it's difficult for the four of them to take action against the red-robed lady. She has many capable people around her. Even the black-robed man next to her isn't simple. Maybe the red-robed lady's strength isn't that great. It's only because she knows how to refine elixirs that she has so many powerhouses around her. Say, if someone knows how to refine elixirs and has extraordinary strength, how heaven-defying would that be? That's true. After all, she's a woman. It's already amazing for her to have such alchemy skills. While the crowd was discussing, the two of them were fighting. Because they had retreated far away and were fighting in midair, the air currents did not injure them. However, as they watched the experts fight, the movements, the auras, and the intense scene, they were extremely excited. It was rare to see cultivators at the peak of the fairy realm fighting. Moreover, it was such a scene. Just looking at it made those who weren't very strong excited and envious. If they had such fighting strength and cultivation, no matter where they went, they would be treated differently. If it were them, they would not so easily and carelessly use their lives and fighting strength to snatch a dead person. In the crowd's opinion, the heavenly elixir building's master, who was the red-robed lady, wasn't lying. When the old man rushed in, he was already half dead. Later, the diagnosis said that his internal organs were damaged, and he had such a strong poison in his body. Even if the heavenly elixir building had a miraculous elixir that could save him, they still had to be willing to do so. After all, which elixir above the 5th level wasn't priceless? How could the heavenly elixir building's master casually take it out to save someone she didn't know? Of course, they couldn't rule out the possibility that the heavenly elixir building's master knew the old man. However, even if she knew him, few people would risk offending such an unknown faction to protect the old man. Moreover, human nature was selfish. When they heard the red-robed lady say that the old man had been carried to the backyard and dealt with, they believed her. Because that way, no matter how you looked at it, it would be more beneficial to them and end all troubles once and for all.
Swish.
Hiss. A sharp sword chi slashed through the air, followed by a gasp. Everyone looked over and saw blood splattering in the air. A severed arm also fell to the ground along with the blood. From afar, it looked like a red rain, which was particularly horrifying. The gray-robed man let out a blood-curdling scream as he quickly retreated while clutching his severed arm. His sinister eyes were like a venomous snake's as he stared at the person who was chasing after him with a sword. He couldn't wait to pounce forward and tear that person apart. When the gray-robed elder saw that the man's hand had been chopped off by the other party, who was also at the peak of the fairy realm, he could not help but frown. When he saw that the other party was chasing after him with a sword, he gave a signal with his eyes. The only woman in the group gathered her energy and lashed out with the long whip in her hand, making a cracking sound in the air. Chapter 1975. The gray-robed old man noticed the silver needle and immediately flicked a gold coin. However, just as the gold coin was about to hit the silver needle, it was hit by another silver needle. Hiss! The woman suddenly sucked in a breath of air. The stinging pain from her wrist caused her entire arm to lose strength and hang down. The whip that she had thrown out also naturally fell down, and the spirit force aura condensed on the whip instantly dissipated. The gray-robed man, who caught a glimpse of this scene from the corner of his eye, quickly retreated to the Heavenly Pill building and did not pursue. According to the words of their master, if they knew that their strength was not the opponent's opponent, then they should not make unnecessary sacrifices. Your Excellency, you are very capable. The gray-robed old man stared at Fengjiu with a gloomy gaze, and his heart was shocked. This woman could hit the gold coin that he had thrown out with a silver needle. It was obvious that her strength and cultivation were not inferior to his. However, looking at her young age, how could she have such a terrifying strength and cultivation? He thought to himself. If he left like this, he was afraid that his master would not forgive him when he returned. However, if he continued to fight, the consequences would be unpredictable for a moment. He could not help but be in a dilemma. We, the Heavenly Pill Building, are never afraid of trouble. If you want to cause trouble and become my enemy, how difficult is it to destroy you? Fengjiu's voice was cold and arrogant. What he said made everyone gasp. This woman in red is really arrogant. She can even say such words. What arrogance? If she doesn't have strength, then she is arrogant. If she has strength, then she is just confident. Is it possible that she will be bullied and endure blindly? That's true. Immortal cultivators are arrogant, let alone powerhouses with great strength. You should know that the dignity of powerhouses is not to be challenged. But I didn't see the woman in red make a move. Why did the old man say that your excellency is very capable? That's because your cultivation is not enough. The powerhouses only need a moment to make a move. How can you, a mere gold core realm cultivator, see through it? The onlookers in the distance were talking. In fact, most of the people did not see Fengjiu make a move. Only the family head level people in the city noticed it. Just from that brief glance, Fengjiu's strength was truly shocking. The other gray-robed man also saw that the situation was not good, so he came to the old man's side. Let's retreat first. I'll go back and tell Master about this. I believe Master won't punish us. After all, where there's life, there's hope. He didn't want to die here. Let's get out of here, the old man said. Just as he was about to move, a chuckle could be heard. You want to retreat just like that? Do you think that our Heavenly Dan building can be humiliated at will? Fengjiu sneered as she looked at the people who were about to leave. As soon as she spoke, a dozen black figures blocked their path. The gray-robed old man's face flushed red when he saw the powerful auras and cultivation of the black-robed men blocking the way. He stared at Fengjiu with a gloomy gaze. So, Building Master doesn't want to let us go? Building Master, think carefully. There was a faint threat in his words. Chapter 1976. Hearing this, the other three people's expressions changed. They looked at Fengjiu with fear in their eyes. The red-robed woman and the black-robed man had already put them in such a disadvantageous position. If they really fought with them, it was hard to say if they could survive. When the old man heard Fengjiu's words, his expression turned ugly. He was an expert at the peak of the immortal sage realm. How could he allow himself to be looked down upon by a woman? At this moment, he had to fight with this woman for his own sake. Otherwise, even if he could leave this place alive, he wouldn't be able to stand tall in the future. If that's the case, do you dare to fight with this old man, building master of the Heavenly Pill Building? As soon as these words came out, it caused an uproar among the crowd. This old man is too shameless. What's his cultivation base? He actually wants to challenge the building master of the Heavenly Pill Building? Not only is the building master a woman, but she's also so young. How can she be his opponent? He's really shameless. The people who said this were all ordinary cultivators and commoners. Among the crowd, The people from the various clans and forces were shocked when they heard this. To be able to provoke this peak immortal sage expert, could it be that the building master of the heavenly pill building, Fengjiu's strength was already on par with that old man? Thinking of this, they had a faint trace of anticipation in their hearts. They really wanted to see the two of them fight. Among the crowd, the late Nalan family head stood behind the crowd. After hearing the words, he couldn't help but look at his eldest son beside him. Mo Chun, what's the cultivation base of this Fengjiu? If she accepts the challenge, can she defeat that old man at the peak of the immortal sage realm? Hearing this, Nalan Xian, who was beside the two of them, couldn't help but look at his elder brother. He was really curious. After all, Fengjiu looked very young. Did he really have such a terrifying cultivation? Just watch and you'll know. Mo Chun said slowly, calmly standing at the back of the crowd. When the Nalan family had heard his son's words, he only felt anger in his heart. His eldest son was not as considerate as his youngest son. He knew that he was anxious to know more, but he would not reveal anything. The corners of Fengjiu's mouth curled up slightly. She needed a chance to make an example out of this person, and this person had delivered himself to her door. Since this was the case, how could she not seize this opportunity? I'll be happy to oblige, she said, and tapped the ground with the tip of her foot. Her red figure rose into the air and flew forward. Her body stood in the air. Xianyuan Mo stood quietly in front of the entrance of the Heavenly Dan building and did not stop Fengjiu from taking action. After everything here stabilized, he would leave. Today's matter just happened to give her a chance to shock everyone. He believed that after today, those who had designs on the Heavenly Pill building would have to weigh their own abilities before making a move. Everyone saw the red figure rise into the air. Her dazzling red dress swept through the air, creating an enchanting flower. She stood in the air and looked at the old man in front of her with disdain. Her whole body emitted a confident aura and dazzling light. Everyone below couldn't help but be dazzled. This woman was truly a peerless beauty. Perhaps only an equally outstanding man was worthy of such an outstanding woman. Chapter 1977. However, at this moment, there was the sound of a sword chi flashing through the air. Everyone turned around and saw two figures, one gray and one red, moving at the speed of light. They were so fast that they could not see their movements. They only saw that the pressure in the air gradually dissipated, making them, who had already retreated far away, feel a faint sense of suffocation. Among the sword shadows, they saw flames shooting out from the sword in the woman's hand. The flames wrapped around the sword and roared like a ferocious beast. Just as she swung her sword down, the flames that shot out from the sword instantly formed a ferocious beast with its mouth wide open, pouncing towards her opponent.
Whoosh.
Roar. Faintly, there seemed to be the sound of a ferocious beast roaring in the air. When the gray-clothed old man saw the ferocious beast formed from flames pouncing towards him with its mouth wide open, he was shocked. He used the long sword in his hand to block it and quickly retreated. Even so, his hand that was holding the sword was still shaken to the point that the web between his thumb and index finger was numb. When the intense pain came, he almost lost his grip on the sword. He did not dare to be careless. Instead, he gathered all the spiritual energy in his body and gathered it together. He condensed a palm wind in his other hand and swept it out, heart-shattering palm. The palm wind carried a spiritual energy aura that could be seen with the naked eye. The spiritual energy aura formed a huge palm and fiercely slammed towards Fengjiu's chest. It seemed that he intended to take her life with this palm. When the people below saw this scene, their hearts jumped. Just when they thought that the woman in red would not be able to dodge, they saw that she did not dodge. Instead, she condensed her spiritual energy aura with her other hand and punched out. Raging Flame Fist. With a clear shout, a huge fist condensed from flames and formed from spiritual energy aura attacked Fengjiu's fist. The fist's flame aura and the powerful aura directly broke the opponent's palm wind. Whoosh!
Bang!
When the two fists met, there was a whooshing sound, followed by a loud bang. The airflow of the two powerhouses was dispersed, and in the air, circles of spiritual power aura visible to the naked eye rippled like water. However, Feng Jiu's fist didn't stop there. She charged towards the old man once more, and her flaming fist smashed down heavily onto the old man's heart. For an instant, the old man's entire body was enveloped in flames, and the raging flames started burning at a speed that caught him off guard. Bang! Hiss!
Ah!
The heavy sound of the fist hitting the ground rang out, followed by the old man's scream in the air. Looking at the scene in the air, the people below were dumbfounded. It was said that victory and defeat in a battle between experts was decided in an instant. Today, they had witnessed it. There was no need to fight at all. One move was enough to kill the old man. When the other three saw the scene, their faces changed dramatically. The old man was at the peak of the immortal sage realm, but after being hit by the flaming fist, his body rolled on the ground and his chi and blood surged up. He spat out a mouthful of blood from his chest, and his chi and blood weakened. In the blink of an eye, the old man was on the verge of death. If they were in his place, would they be able to survive? Let's go. Chapter 1978. Seeing this, they were bewildered. They didn't dare to stay any longer and quickly left. Feng Jiu glanced at the few people who were running away and retracted her gaze indifferently. She stood in midair and looked down at the crowd below. A cold voice that contained a powerful pressure came out of her mouth. I'll take this opportunity to say a few words. I've never been afraid of trouble. From today onwards, if anyone insists on finding trouble with the Heavenly Pill Building, they will most likely end up like the person below, or even worse. Those who enter the Heavenly Pill Building and want to buy pills from the Heavenly Pill Building have to follow the rules. If they break my rules, I'll deal with it in my own way. Everyone listened to the cold voice echoing in their ears, and none of them could say anything else. With such methods, and such strength, who would dare to cause trouble in the Heavenly Pill Building? Who would dare to make an enemy out of her? Seeing the red-clothed woman and her group return to the building, the scene was quickly cleaned up, as if the previous incident had never happened. The crowd also gradually dispersed. Some entered the Heavenly Pill Building again, while others had already left. The peddlers who had moved away first set up their stalls again and shouted for business. Father, elder sister Feng is so powerful. Yang Xiao, Er's eyes were full of worship. This was the first time she knew that a woman could be so powerful. Patriarch Yang sighed softly. She's more than powerful. She's simply heaven-defying. From the corner of his eye, he saw that there were people from the Nalan family among the crowd walking into the Heavenly Pill Building. He couldn't help but be startled. He pulled his daughter and said, let's go in again. We haven't finished talking about the pills from before. Hey, father. Yang Xiao was pulled inside as she said, Father, don't be anxious. Brother Leng Hua said it's fine. He's a manager. You're a girl, but he's a man. Don't always call him Brother Leng Hua. Call him Leng Hua, or Manager Leng. Patriarch Yang secretly curled his lips. That young man didn't look like he had any fighting strength. It's Brother Leng Hua. Daddy, don't worry about it. All right, I don't care. You can do whatever you want. I'll go ask about the pill. After entering the Heavenly Pill Building, Patriarch Yang waved his hand and told her to go shopping by herself. Father, I'll go home by myself later. You can go back first after you're done. Yang Xiao said with a smile and quickly squeezed into the crowd. A grown girl can't be kept at home. Patriarch Yang shook his head and sighed. Only then did he look around for Leng Hua's figure. On the other side, the Nalan family's patriarch, who had been left on the first floor after entering the Heavenly Dan building, was so angry that his face turned red. He kept muttering, "This unfilial son, let him introduce us. Look at him. He disappeared in the blink of an eye. I really don't know if he is my son or not. He doesn't think about us at all." When Nalan Zian heard this, he couldn't help but mutter in a low voice, "Doesn't father know whether Big Brother is father's son or not?" If Big Brother heard this, he would definitely be angry. Chapter 1979. Cough. Nalanzian coughed softly. After looking around, he said softly, "Father, this is a public place. Give me some face." As Nalanzian spoke, he saw a graceful black figure from the corner of his eye. His eyes could not help but light up. "Father, you can see for yourself. I won't accompany you." He didn't wait for his father to say anything, and quickly walked toward the black, graceful figure not far away. "Miss Lung Shuang." Nalanzian came in front of the figure and bowed to her with a smile. "Do you still remember me? I'm Nalanzian. We met a few days ago." Lung Shuang glanced at the man in front of her and nodded. "Young Master Nalan. You remember me. That's great," he said with joy, and his eyebrows were full of joy. On the other side, when the Nalan family had saw his youngest son running over to the woman in black and talking happily, he couldn't help but glare at him. None of them are easy to deal with. He shook his head, clasped his hands behind his back, and turned to look at the medicinal pills on the first floor. "Young Master Nalan, do you need something?" Lung Shuang looked at the person in front of her strangely. It was the first time he approached her inexplicably. After smiling at her, he even told her his name. Today, he ran to her and smiled so inexplicably. What did he want to do? This. He turned his gaze and said, "Miss Lung Shuang, I want to see the medicinal pills. Can you introduce them to me? I still have something to do. If you want to see the medicinal pills, I can ask someone to tell you." While speaking, before Nalanzian could react, she walked to the side and ordered a woman. "Show young Master Nalan around to see the medicinal pills." After instructing, she nodded to Nalanzian and turned to leave. "Young Master, this way, please." The woman made an inviting gesture to Nalanzian. Seeing this, Nalanzian smiled and waved his hand. "No need, you go do your thing. I'll look at it myself." The person he wanted to accompany didn't have time to accompany him, so he didn't have the mood to find someone else to accompany him. The medicine attendant was slightly startled and nodded. "Okay, if young master needs anything, you can find me." She bowed and left. In the attic, Emochin sat at the table, took a sip of tea, and said, "This city's fragrance is really unexpected." Today, there are almost no people in other places. He looked at Fengjiu and asked, "Emo, how did you think of this method?" Fengjiu smiled. "I'm a person who refines medicinal pills. How difficult is it to refine such a medicinal pill?" She poured 2 cups of tea, 1 cup in front of Xianyuan Mo's, and the other cup in front of herself. "People are curious. As long as you grasp this point, you naturally don't have to worry about customers. What's more, I sell medicinal pills and things like medicinal pills. The price isn't cheap, and it's not something that ordinary people can afford. In fact, even if there are no customers today, my reputation will spread as time passes. Refining the strange fragrance pill is just to bring forward all of this." He smiled and asked, "What's the origin of those people today? I heard that it was caused by you carrying a person into the backyard. Aren't you afraid of causing unnecessary trouble by letting the tiger return to the mountain?" Chapter 1980. At this moment, Xianyuan Mo's put down the teacup in his hand after drinking a cup of tea. His deep gaze landed on Emo Chun as he said in a low voice, "I will be leaving in a few days. During this time, please take care of her." Hearing this, Emo Chun was slightly surprised. He looked at Xianyuan Mo strangely and asked, "Where are you going? How long will you be gone for?" He was actually willing to leave Fengjiu in his care? Did the sun rise from the west today? Fengjiu was slightly startled. She looked at Xianyuan Mo's and reached out to hold his hand. "Mo's, don't worry. Even if I'm here alone, I'll take care of myself. With your strength, the people around me, and a few contracted beasts, who do you think can hurt me?" Xianyuan Mo's also held her hand, but did not say anything. He only looked at Emo Chan, as if waiting for his answer. Seeing this, Emo Chan smiled warmly. "Don't worry. Although I don't know where you're going, it is not a problem if you want to stay there for a while. I will take care of Aju here. I will definitely not let her suffer." Hearing this, Xianyuan glanced at him indifferently. He picked up the teapot and poured himself a cup of tea. He also filled Mo Chen's teacup with tea. If I come back and see that she is missing a single hair, I will hold you responsible. Mo Chen's eyes flashed slightly. He looked at the tea in front of him and smiled. Don't worry. Once you leave, I will move in with Fengjiu. Are you relieved now? Cough cough. Fengjiu, who was drinking tea, choked when she heard this. She coughed lightly. Xianyuan Mose, who was beside her, stroked her back with one hand and glanced at him. His face was stern as he said in a cold voice, "You only need to stand out when she needs help. Otherwise, stay away from her. This monarch is more at ease." Mo Chen was in a good mood when he heard him say this, lord. He smiled and said, "Don't worry. I know what I'm doing." Xianyuan Mose looked at the face of the banished immortal in front of him. Looking at his gentle and elegant manner, he could not help but frown. He could not help but wonder if it was right or wrong for him to ask him to help take care of a Jew. Why did he feel even more uneasy about leaving this person by her side? Seeing the two of them talking, Fengjiu shook his head helplessly. All right. There's no need to talk so far. I can take care of myself. I'm already an adult. Why would I need someone to take care of me? She looked at Mo Chen and smiled, saying, He's going on a long trip, but he might not be back for long. Ever since he decided to go on a long trip, I've been worried. I can't stand him anymore. Although she said that, the tenderness between her brows could not be concealed. Mo Chen looked at her and smiled. It's all right. I understand. If it were me, I would do the same. He knew why he was worried. After all, Fengjiu had just arrived here. Although his strength was not bad, who knew if there was no one in this world who was stronger than him? Thinking about it, he was also worried that one day he might get into some trouble that could not be solved. What's more, he was not by her side. The few of them drank tea and chatted in the loft. When it was noon, Fengjiu said to Mo Chen, "Why don't we go eat together?"
All right.
However, it's best if we leave from the back door. Mo Chen smiled and said gently. Chapter 1981. The three of them left through the back door and went to the restaurant to eat. Everyone in the Heavenly Pill building was busy, and everything seemed to be in order after they left. Ji Shui, Immortal Lord, also came to the Heavenly Pill building. He had smelled the medicinal fragrance since last night and came here early in the morning. Just earlier, when Fengjiu was fighting with the old man at the peak of the Sage Immortal, he was watching from a corner not far away. It was only when he saw it with his own eyes that he believed that such a young woman actually had such outstanding strength and cultivation. But speaking of which, how could a woman who could catch the eye of Xianyuan Mose be an ordinary woman? After walking into the Heavenly Pill building, he was even more surprised when he saw the pills placed inside. He really did not expect that the pills here were all so top-notch. These pills and medicines were really life-saving treasures at a critical moment. Ji Shui, Immortal Lord, who was dressed in gray, walked inside. He restrained his cultivation and looked like an ordinary old man. However, he was different from ordinary old men. His hair and beard were all white, and he looked a bit like an immortal. After looking around on the first floor, he went up to the second floor to buy pills after registering. After Ji Shui, Immortal Lord, went up to the second floor, Leng Hua and Du Fan looked at the information on the registration form and could not help but be slightly surprised. Ji Shui, Immortal Lord? Isn't that the master of the Yama Lord? The two of them lowered their voices and spoke. They knew about Ji Shui, Immortal Lord. He lived in the Ling residence next to the Feng residence and was the master of the Yama Lord. This time, the Yama Lord wanted to leave because his master wanted him to go out with him. However, their master had seen Ji Shui, Immortal Lord, before, but they had not seen him and could not recognize him. Hasn't Huilang been following us recently? If it's him, Huilang should be nearby. As Leng Hua spoke, he looked around and saw a familiar figure resting in the corner of the first floor. The two of them walked over and arrived in front of him. Leng Hua called out, "Huilang, why are you here?" "I followed the immortal monarch here. He's walking around inside while I rest here," Huilang said weakly. Following the immortal monarch is so boring. Why did this job fall on me? Hearing this, Du Fan and Leng Hua looked at each other and asked at the same time, "The still water immortal monarch you speak of is that gray-clothed old man? The one with the white beard?" "Yes." "What's wrong?" Hui Lang asked. He stood up and asked in a low voice, "Did he make trouble for you?" The two of them didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Du Fan smiled and said, "How could that be?
We saw him go up just now.
If it's really him, we can entertain him. After all, he was the master of the Yama Lord." Naturally, they couldn't treat him like an ordinary person. "How about this? I'll go up and take a look," Leng Hua said warmly, then turned and walked up to the second floor. Seeing this, Hui Lang moved closer to Du Fan. "Du Fan, are the ghost doctor and my master in the attic? Can I go up for a moment?" He had been squatting in the corner with the still water immortal monarch and had seen the ghost doctor make her move. If he didn't have to follow the still water immortal monarch, he would have rushed up. "There's no use going up now. They're not in the attic," Du Fan said with a smile and patted him on the shoulder. "Whatever your master tells you to do, just do it obediently." With that, he turned and left. Chapter 1982. On the opening day of the Heavenly Pill Dispensary, the entire Hundred River City was in an uproar. It could be said that in one night, the streets of the West City, which were originally deserted, had become the liveliest place. People were scrambling to rent the 2 rows of shops. All kinds of stalls were set up in the streets and alleys. Even the wall that was originally blocking the inner street was opened up to allow people to walk around. It could be said that the Heavenly Pill Dispensary not only changed the desolation of the West City, but also brought prosperity to the area. Feng Jiao, Xianyuan Mose, and Mo Chen went to the restaurant to enjoy the scenery after dinner. Not only could they go boating on the lake, but they could also sit in the bamboo forest pavilion and drink tea while playing the zither. It could be said to be an extremely quiet and elegant place. The 3 of them drank tea and chatted by the lake until the sky gradually darkened. Mo Chen got up and left, while Xianyuan Mose and Feng Jiao returned to the Heavenly Pill Dispensary. "Master, the old man has woken up," Leng Hua reported as soon as they entered the Heavenly Pill Dispensary. Feng Jiao nodded and looked at Xianyuan Mose. "Do you want to rest in the attic and wait for me?" "Okay." Xianyuan Mose nodded and walked up to the attic. Feng Jiao brought Leng Hua to the side room in the backyard. Fan Lin was taking care of the old man inside. When he saw her, he stood up and said, "Master, he's awake. Did you feed him the medicine?" Feng Jiao asked as she walked to the bed in the inner room. She watched as the old man on the bed slowly opened his eyes and looked at her. "Grandpa Tan." Feng Jiao smiled and looked at the old man. She saw the astonishment in his eyes. "I didn't expect to meet you again." "It's you?" The old man obviously recognized her. However, he didn't expect that the young man from back then would become a woman. So, she was a woman disguised as a man? "It's me, Feng Jiao." She smiled and sat on the chair beside the bed. She looked at him. "How do you feel? Are you feeling better?" As she spoke, she naturally reached out her hand to feel his pulse and check the condition of his body. "So it was you who saved me," he murmured. He finally understood why he, who should have died, was still alive. So it was her who had saved him. However, if she had saved him, then wouldn't the people who were chasing after him know, "I can't stay here"? He struggled to get up, but Feng Jiao held him down. "You don't have to worry. You're very safe here. Those people can't hurt you." Feng Jiao said, "I spent a lot of effort to save you. Your injuries haven't healed yet, so you can't get out of bed and move around. But don't worry. It doesn't matter if he stays." She smiled and asked Fan Lin, "Did you let Grandpa Tan drink the medicine?" "Not yet." As Fan Lin spoke, he took out the bottle of medicine and handed it to her. At the same time, he helped the old man up and leaned against the bed. Feng Jiao took the bottle, opened the cap, and handed it to him. "Grandpa Tan, drink this. It's good for your body." Looking at the translucent medicine, Grandpa Tan was stunned. Then he shook his head. This kind of thing is too expensive. I can't accept it. Just by looking at the medicine, he knew that it was expensive. How could he drink something like this? She didn't know how hard it was for her to get such a precious thing. How could she waste it on him? Chapter 1983. The corner of Fanlin's mouth twitched when he heard this. How could anything refined by Master be worthless? Any random item was worth a lot of money, not to mention the potions that the masters kept with them as a precaution. How could the preciousness of these potions be measured by money? I wonder who this old man is? How could Master call him Grandpa Tan? He even took out such precious pills and medicine to treat him. You refined it? Elder Tan was slightly startled. He looked at the medicine in the bottle with some surprise. She actually refined something like this? Although he couldn't tell what grade it was, he could tell from the color that it was definitely not an ordinary medicine. At least, he had never come into contact with medicine of this grade. Drink it first. Feng Jiu handed it to him and motioned for him to drink it first. Seeing this, Elder Tan didn't say anything else. He wanted to drink it first. His body was seriously injured, but he didn't know how she saved him. What did she use to save him? Why did he feel that the injuries in his body had healed a little when he woke up? Seeing that Elder Tan drank it, Feng Jiu smiled. Grandpa Tan, if you have any problems here, look for him. His name is Fan Lin. He has some understanding of medicine. He will help you nurse your body back to health. As for those people you are worried about, you don't have to worry anymore. They already came by while you were unconscious. You can rest assured and nurse your body back to health. Those people came by? Then you. Elder Tan was shocked. He couldn't help but size up Feng Jiu, but saw that she wasn't injured. I'm not injured, but those people ran away with their tails between their legs. She supported her chin with one hand and smiled. She paused and said, Oh, right, the old man who led them is dead. That old man was struck by her raging flame fist right in the heart. Other than the strength of the fist, the spiritual energy aura along with the scorching heat of the flames had also entered the heart meridian. As a result, with just one punch, that old man was on the verge of death, and in the end, he died. Elder Tan's eyes widened in shock. He couldn't believe it. The old man who led them was dead? The other party was an expert at the peak of the sage immortal realm. How could she kill such an expert? Oh right, Grandpa Tan, are you hungry? How about this? I'll get someone to cook some medicinal porridge for you. First, it can nourish your body. Second, it tastes good. She then looked at Fan Lin and asked, Do you know how to make medicinal porridge?
Don't worry, Master.
This subordinate knows medicinal cuisine. I'll have someone prepare it and bring it over. Fan Lin said as he respectfully retreated. Who exactly are you? Elder Tan couldn't help but ask. He looked at Feng Jiu with a complicated and probing look in his eyes. My name is Feng Jiu, and she's still a woman. As for the rest, she smiled. It's just that she's more capable, has more status, and has more subordinates. Elder Tan moved his lips but could not say anything. That was not all. Wasn't the treasure trove pavilion destroyed by her? With such a frightening ability, he had really been blind in the past. He had actually treated him as an ordinary herb gatherer. Chapter 1984. Master, don't worry. I'll take good care of that senior, Fan Lin said with a smile. After watching them leave, he entered the side room. Elder Tan, who was already lying down, saw him enter and hesitated for a moment before asking, Who is she? Won't I cause trouble for her by being here? Senior, don't worry. Since my master said that nothing will happen, then he has the ability to deal with it. You can rest at ease and recuperate. As Fan Lin spoke, he looked at the old man on the bed and smiled. No matter who my master is, you just need to know that he won't hurt you. Elder Tan calmed down and did not speak again. Of course, he knew that Feng Jiu would not hurt him. He had interacted with him for a period of time, and he trusted his character. The medicine I drank just now was very expensive, right? Elder Tan asked again as he wondered if there was anything in his space ring that could compare to that medicine. Fan Lin smiled warmly and said, Actually, it wasn't expensive because it wasn't for sale. There was a family head in the city who wanted that medicine and was willing to pay a sky-high price to buy it, but my master didn't agree to sell it. As he spoke, Fan Lin came to the table and poured a cup of water and brought it to the bedside. "Senior, have a cup of water." When Elder Tan heard his words, he was speechless for a long time, and his heart was even more shocked. Feng Jiu gave such a precious thing to him to drink just like that? How could this be? On the other side, Feng Jiu came to the loft and nestled into Xian Yuanmo's arms. "Although I'm not very busy, why do I feel a little tired today? I don't want to move at all." Xian Yuanmo reached out and hugged her waist. His low and magnetic voice said, "If you're tired, you can sleep. I'll be by your side, so don't worry and sleep. Later, I'll carry you back to rest." Feng Jiu, who was nestled in his arms, narrowed her eyes. The two of them were lying on the soft bed, and it was a little crowded. However, almost half of her body was in his arms, which meant that she was lying on top of him. This feeling was very strange, and it made her smile involuntarily. I like to sleep in a squeeze like this." What she didn't say was that she slept on top of him like this. Thinking of this sentence, the corners of her lips curled up even more. Her thoughts were too evil. If he knew what she was thinking right now, he would probably be shocked. "You like to sleep like this, with my arms around you,"
Xian Yuanmo said.
Seeing that most of her body was lying on him, he didn't think about anything else. He just felt sorry for the tiredness between her eyebrows. She had been busy since last night and hadn't had a good rest today. She must be exhausted. But I haven't heard from Leng Hua and Du Fan about today's performance. I wonder how many pills and medicines were sold today? She closed her eyes and fell asleep, but her mouth muttered softly. "It's the same if you look at it tomorrow." Xian Yuanmo stroked her head and touched her soft black hair. He gently stroked along the black hair and felt her breathing become lighter. He knew that she was asleep, so he covered her with a blanket and quietly hugged her. Leng Hua and Du Fan were about to come in and report today's performance, but they saw the scene through the crack in the door. The two of them looked at each other and silently retreated. "Master should be exhausted today. How about this? We'll report to her tomorrow," Du Fan said. Chapter 1985. Feng Jiu, who originally only wanted to take a nap and rest, fell asleep in Xian Yuanmo's arms. Xian Yuanmo was worried that she would be uncomfortable sleeping like this, so after hitting her sleeping pressure point, he carried her out. "I'll take her back. You can organize today's results into a document and show it to her tomorrow. You can share more of the work in the building. Don't let her tire herself out." "Yama Lord, don't worry. We will." The two nodded. After looking at each other, Du Fan said, "That's right. Yama Lord, there's something I need to tell you." Holding the familiar Feng Jiu in his arms, Xian Yuanmo covered her with a cloak and asked, "What is it?" Today, Jishui Deity Lord came and took a fancy to 2 pills on the second floor. In the end, he used gold coins and medicine to exchange for the 2 pills. Those 2 pills were soul-returning pills that can save lives. Hearing this, Xian Yuanmo's eyes flashed. He looked at the two and asked, "Is there anything else?" Actually, he also took a fancy to a few other things, but he probably didn't have the corresponding medicine to exchange for them. In the end, we saw him stand in front of a bottle of medicine on the second floor for a long time before leaving. Actually, they had also intended to tell their mistress about this matter, but seeing that their mistress had fallen asleep, they did not have the opportunity to do so. They could only wait until tomorrow to tell her. But since Yen Zhu was Immortal Lord Jishui's disciple, and he would be leaving with him soon, it was naturally better to let him know about this matter. Understood. Xian Yuanmo replied, and left with Feng Jiu. The two watched Yama Lord leave with their master. Only then did they withdraw their gazes and return to the building to take care of the remaining matters. As for Xian Yuanmo, he wrapped the cloak around Feng Jiu's body and quickly brought her back to the Feng Manor's courtyard. Entering a side room, he gently placed her on the bed and covered her with a blanket. Only then did he walk out. "What's wrong?" He looked at Hui Lang, who was standing guard outside, and asked, Master, Immortal Lord Ji Shui also went to the Heavenly Pill Building today. Hui Lang was about to tell him about what Immortal Lord Ji Shui had done today when he saw him raise his hand to stop him. I understand. Also, I'm not asking you to follow him to monitor him, but to take care of him when necessary. Xianyuan Mo's frowned. Hearing this, Hui Lang sighed. I know, but that still water immortal monarch doesn't need me to do anything. He didn't let me get too close to him, saying that I was disturbing him, but I swear that I didn't say a word when I was following him. Because of this, he had been holding it in for the past few days. All right, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Go back to the Ling Manor and take care of it. Xianyuan Mo's waved his hand and turned around to enter the room. After taking off his outer clothes, he laid down beside Fengjiu and reached out to pull her into his embrace. The next morning when Fengjiu woke up, she found herself in Xianyuan Mo's embrace. Looking at the layout of the room, she was no longer in the Heavenly Pill Building's pavilion. She glanced at the person on the bed who still hadn't woken up. She raised her leg and was about to quietly get up and step over Xianyuan Mo's when she saw the person who was originally sleeping open his eyes. He reached out and hugged her as she stretched her leg over him. Chapter 1986. Aren't you going to sleep for a while? Xianyuan Mo's hugged her and rested his chin on her hair. I can't sleep if I wake up. Today, I have to visit Elder Tan and the Heavenly Pill Building. She lay in his arms and asked, When do you plan to leave? In a few days. He would not be at ease if he left now. I'm fine here. You don't have to worry. Your master should have been waiting for a few days. Now that the Heavenly Pill Building has opened, everything has stabilized. It doesn't matter if you're here or not. Hearing this, Xianyuan Mo asked, Do you want me to leave so badly? I don't know when I'll be back this time, but I have a feeling that I won't be back in a short time. If things were easy to handle, his master would not say such words. I'm just thinking that the sooner you go, the sooner you can come back. She hugged him tightly and smiled. I'll wait for you here. Come back when you're done. As for the things here, you don't have to worry. I'll take care of it. All right then. I'll go back to the Ling Mansion and see how my master is preparing. I won't accompany you to the Heavenly Pill Building today, he said slowly. He also felt that it was better to go and come back early.
All right,
Fengjiu replied. Then she got up and washed up. After the two of them had a simple meal, one returned to the Ling Mansion and the other went to the Heavenly Pill Building. When they arrived at the Heavenly Pill Building, Fengjiu looked at yesterday's sales list. After seeing the things sold, she could not help but smile. I didn't expect the two heroes to sell so many elixirs. It seems that the families in the city also have a lot of hidden elixirs. Master, the elixirs have been collected here. Take a look. Lung Hua handed over a space ring. Such precious herbs were usually handed over to the master, who would refine them into elixirs or medicines. Fengjiu took it and glanced at it. Then she transferred the medicinal materials into her space and handed the space ring to Lung Hua. If you don't have enough elixirs, make up for it. The gold coins earned can be used for turnover. Yes. The two of them replied. Then they told her about how Immortal Master Ji Shui had also come to buy elixirs yesterday. Fengjiu was slightly surprised. But when she thought about how he was going to go overseas with Mo's, she understood his intention to buy elixirs. It was true to bring those elixirs with him just in case. All right, I got it. You guys can go back to work. She waved her hand, indicating for the two of them to leave.
Yes.
The two of them responded, then turned and walked out. When he reached the first floor, Lung Hua saw Yang Shower again. When he saw her, he instinctively wanted to avoid her. After all, if he was entangled with her, it would be difficult for him to escape in a short time. You deal with the front. I'll head to the back first, Lung Hua said. Then he turned around and heard Yang Shao's voice. Brother Lung Hua. Yang Shao shouted and quickly walked towards him. Du Fan could not help but smile. That Miss Yang Shao is looking for you again. You should deal with her yourself. Du Fan patted him on the shoulder and turned to leave. Seeing Du Fan leave, Leng Hua smiled helplessly and shook his head. Then he turned to look at Yang Xiao, who was walking quickly towards him. Miss Yang Xiao, what's the matter? Chapter 1987.
This.
Leng Hua looked at her hesitantly. You want to help here?
Yes.
Didn't Sister Feng say that I could come over at any time? I don't have anything to do at home, so I came here to help. But I have to tell Sister Feng about this. She looked at him with a smile and whispered, Also, if I help here, I can see Brother Leng Hua often. Hearing this, the gentle smile on Leng Hua's face froze. How about this? Master is in the attic. You go up and tell her yourself. I still have things to do, so I won't accompany you up. Okay. She nodded and said, Then I'll go up first. As she spoke, she walked up the stairs with light steps. Because Yang Xiao often came to the attic, she wasn't stopped from going up. But Leng Hua, who was standing in the same place, looked a little distressed. After watching the figure go up the stairs, he shook his head and sighed. Why are you sighing so early in the morning? Leng Shuang appeared beside him and asked,
Sister.
Leng Hua saw her and smiled. Why are you here? Don't you need to go up and serve Master? Master doesn't need me to serve him up there. He asked me to come down and see if there's anything I can help with. Leng Shuang said. She looked at her brother and asked with concern, What happened to you just now? Are you too tired these 2 days?
No.
He shook his head and smiled. Just now, Miss said that she wanted to come to the Heavenly Pill building to help, so I asked her to go up to the attic and ask Master. As he spoke, his voice paused slightly. He looked at his sister and said, Sister, I feel that Miss seems to be particularly enthusiastic about me. Hearing this, Leng Shuang glanced at Yang Kai's jade-like face and said, This Miss Yang has a preference for men with outstanding looks. Although you are indeed quite handsome, and the 8 Phoenix Guard captains are not inferior in terms of looks, she has a special liking for you. The most important reason for this is because you are gentle and polite. Leng Shuang couldn't help but smile when she said that. It was this smile that made her cold and elegant face seem even more lively, even more beautiful and enchanting. This second young lady's personality is rather straightforward, and she is not scheming. I can see that she is somewhat interested in you. Since you are not interested in her, you should make it clear to her as soon as possible. Sister, you usually don't talk much. Why are you talking so much to me today? Sis, you look really good when you smile. Leng Hua looked at her with bright eyes. He felt that his sister's smile was even more funny and gentle. He knew that his sister was very good to him since he was a child. The two of them depended on each other. If they hadn't met Master, perhaps they wouldn't be where they were today. His sister, who used to be as cold as ice, was no longer as indifferent as before after being with Master for a long time. Hearing this, Leng Shuang glanced at him, and the smile on her face disappeared. All right, I still have to look around. You can go and do your thing. With that, she turned around and prepared to leave. But who knew that when she turned around, she saw Nailan Xian walk in. When Nailan Xian saw her, he couldn't help but reveal a big smile. Miss Leng Shuang. Chapter 1988. Oh, I have nothing to do, so I came over to have a look. As Nailan Xian spoke, he looked at Leng Shuang and boldly said, Miss Leng Shuang, are you busy today? I want to invite you to have a cup of tea. Do you have time? Sorry, I'm very busy. Excuse me, Leng Shuang said, and turned to leave. Nailan Xian stood there awkwardly and looked at Leng Hua. Well, then I'd better go back first. I'll send you off. Leng Hua smiled gently and sent him to the door, but he stood at the door and didn't move. He looked like he wanted to say something, so he asked, Is there anything else, young Master Nailan? Leng Hua, what is your sister like? Nailan Xian asked. He had never done this kind of thing to please a woman before. He wanted to give her jewelry and jade, but he didn't think she would like it. Leng Hua smiled and said, Young Master Nailan, you don't have to worry. My sister usually doesn't like anything in particular. If she likes this person, even if he gives her something worthless, she will regard it as a treasure. That's true. He nodded and expressed his understanding. Then I'll go back first. Watching him leave, Leng Hua smiled and shook his head. He returned to the Heavenly Pill building. He didn't know what was going on with Nalanzian. He actually took a fancy to his sister. Unfortunately, his sister had no interest in him. When he entered, he heard Yang Xiao's joyful voice. Brother Leng Hua, Sister Feng agreed. Yang Xiao jumped in front of him and said to him with a smile. Sister Feng agreed. She said I can help here in the future. I see. Then you can ask me, or do Fan if you don't understand something in the future. Leng Hua said with a smile. Okay. She responded crisply. Her eyes looked at Leng Hua with unconcealable love and joy, which made Leng Hua a little embarrassed. Thinking of his sister's words, he said, Second young lady, come to the backyard. I have something to say to you. Hearing this, Yang Xiao was a bit surprised, but he still happily replied, Okay. He then followed him to the backyard. There was no one else in the backyard. The two of them sat down at the table. Leng Hua looked at the cheerful little girl in front of him and didn't know what to say for a moment. Brother Leng Hua, what do you want to talk to me about? Yang Xiao asked crisply. He rested his chin on his hands and looked at Leng Hua with a smile.
You.
He opened his mouth, but changed his mind. It's like this. I want to ask you, did your father agree to come here to help? Will he have any objections? After saying this, he sighed inwardly. He actually couldn't bring himself to say it. Big brother Leng Hua, you don't have to worry, my father agreed. He saw me running over here all day, and he couldn't do anything about it. He also said that if I was in the Heavenly Dan building, he would be at ease. I see. That's good. He nodded and looked at her. In the end, he could only smile. Then you go and do your work. Help greet the guests on the first floor. Okay, then I'll go to the front. Big brother Leng Hua, if you need anything, just call me. She said with a smile, then walked to the front. Du Fan walked out from somewhere and sat down at the table with a light smile. He looked at Leng Hua's helpless expression and said with a smile, Why does our gentle and refined young master Leng Hua also look so helpless? Whether it's her strengths or her weaknesses, in the eyes of the person you love, they're all strengths, just like Master and the Yama Lord. Hearing this, Du Fan looked at Leng Hua seriously. After a while, his eyes moved slightly, and he asked with a smile, So, if you fall in love with the second young lady, you won't mind if she's chubby? Chapter 1990. He originally did not have any interest in this matter. He just wanted to stay by his master's side and work properly. How could he be moved by little second miss? Du Fan laughed in a low voice. There are no absolutes in this world. Something like fate, who knows? He stood up and laughed as he walked out. For the rest of the day, Yang Xiao avoided Leng Hua the entire time. She did not dare approach him because Du Fan's words made her feel inferior, especially when she thought of Leng Hua's gentle temperament and outstanding appearance. As long as she thought of Du Fan's words and saw Leng Hua again, she could not raise her head. Leng Hua was a little surprised by this. Seeing that she was avoiding him, he did not say anything else. As for Fengjiu, she took care of some matters in the Heavenly Pill building. After refining a cauldron of pills, she prepared to return to the Feng Manor. However, when she reached the first floor, she saw Yang Xiao dispiritedly wiping the cabinets. She could not help but call Leng Hua over. What's wrong with Xiao? She was so excited when I saw her this morning. How did she become like this? Is she not used to it? Leng Hua could not help but smile bitterly when he heard this. He told her about what had happened in the morning. It's just like that. I saw that she has been avoiding me since this morning. She doesn't even dare raise her head to look at me when she speaks. I was wondering if Du Fan's words were too excessive. Should I go talk to her? Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled. So, it's like that. All right, you can go do what you need to do. Leave her to me. She gestured for Leng Hua to leave before walking towards Yang Xiao.
Shower.
Elder sister Feng. Yang Xiao raised her head to look at her. Are you going back? I'm planning on going back.
How are you?
Are you used to it? She asked with a smile. I'm used to it. It's not hard to help out here. She lowered her head again as she spoke. Although it was not hard to do things here, she found that the people who came to buy things liked the beautiful female medicine attendants. They were not too willing to find her. Seeing this, Feng Jiu smiled. I still plan to go out and buy some things. Come with me. Okay, she replied. Then, she walked out from behind the counter and followed Feng Jiu out the door. Outside, she kept her head down and fiddled with the corners of her clothes.
She seemed to be thinking about something.
Occasionally, she would raise her head to look at Feng Jiu, but she looked like she wanted to say something. What's wrong? Do you have something to say to me? Seeing that she did not speak, Feng Jiu asked with a smile. Sister Feng, do all men like beautiful women? Do they all instinctively like beautiful women? Hearing this, Feng Jiu chuckled. As they walked, she told her about how she met Xianyuan Mose. At the same time, she bought some things in the market. She was going to let Mose bring them back with him. Just like that. At that time, my face was still disfigured. After that, we kept fighting. I don't know when we gradually got together. Actually, it's a man's instinct to like beautiful women. However, what can really keep a man's heart is not your appearance or body, but your person. A person's heart is beautiful. That is true beauty. Chapter 1991. Hearing her words, Yang Xiao seemed to understand and looked at her in a daze. After a while, she asked, Elder Sister Feng, if I want to lose weight, do you have any way of helping me? You need to move more and sweat more. As long as you have the determination, you can lose weight without my help. She looked at her then smiled. However, you don't need to be too skinny. Being chubby is also quite cute. Hearing this, Yang Xiao secretly decided that she had to change. Thus, after shopping with her for a while, she went home first. Feng Jiu saw that she was no longer as depressed as before and smiled, also returning to the Feng manor. Inside the Ling residence, Xianyuan Mose and Zhishui deity had already decided on a time to set out.
It was set for the next day.
Although Xianyuan Mose felt that it was a bit fast, he agreed because he wanted to leave early and return early. I want to see Feng Jiu again tonight. Zhishui deity looked at Xianyuan Mose and spoke. Hearing this, Xianyuan Mose glanced at him and asked, Is something the matter? I want to exchange for a few more pills from her. Zhishui deity directly said, not hiding his intentions. Xianyuan Mose stood up and brought him to the Feng manor. When they passed through the small door between the two manors, Zhishui deity could not help but be slightly surprised. The two manors were only separated by a single wall, and this place was connected? He had lived here for a few days, yet he had not noticed it. When they arrived at the Feng manor, Feng Jiu still had not returned. They sat in the courtyard for a while and drank tea until Hui Lang quickly walked over. Master, the ghost doctor has returned. Outside, Feng Jiu slowly walked into the courtyard and saw the two of them sitting there. She was stunned for a moment and then walked forward. Immortal Master, Zhe, why are you here? She didn't expect to see the two of them sitting in the courtyard. My master said that she wanted to exchange for a few pills from you. Xianyuan Mose said, his deep black eyes carrying a trace of a smile as he looked at Feng Jiu. When she met his gaze, she knew what he meant. She immediately walked over to the table and sat down. Looking at Zhishui deity, she smiled and asked, What kind of pills does deity want? Zhishui deity looked at her and asked, Do you have any magic treasures that you need? I don't have many older spirit medicines left, but I have quite a few magic treasures and immortal tools that I can exchange for pills and medicines. Xianyuan Mose and Feng Jiu glanced at each other. Xianyuan Mose didn't say anything, but picked up his teacup and took a sip of tea. Feng Jiu, on the other hand, smiled and took out 3 medicine bottles from her space and placed them on the table. She then took out another bottle of medicine. I know that Immortal Monarch has gone to exchange for 2 pills. I wonder if these pills of mine are suitable for immortal monarch. Immortal Master Ji Shui glanced at her. Then his gaze landed on the pill bottles in front of him. He asked, "What kind of pills are these? What are their uses?" "This is an internal pill. No matter how severe the internal injury is, it can be cured." The bottle in the middle contains a rank 6 detoxification pill. I believe that deities should know what kind of poison a rank 6 detoxification pill can cure, so I won't say too much. As for this bottle, it is a medicine for muscle regeneration and blood staunching. It is hard to avoid injuries when walking outside. This medicine can be used to heal external injuries. She spoke slowly. Her voice paused and she picked up the last bottle of medicine. As long as this medicine is taken, your strength will increase in an instant. This is a treasure that can save your life in a dangerous situation. I feel that deity should need these 4 things the most. What does deity think? Chapter 1992. Fengjie was astonished to see the table full of magic tools, immortal tools, and elixirs. He didn't expect Immortal Lord Ji Shui to have so many things in his collection, and all of them looked pretty good. "You can pick them yourself," Immortal Lord Ji Shui said, letting her pick from the items, while he looked at the elixirs and elixirs. Fengjie picked and looked, and finally took many life-saving immortal tools, as well as a few precious elixirs. Finally, she returned the rest to him. "Immortal Lord, I'll take these." She pointed at the items she picked out and said. Immortal Lord Ji Shui glanced at them and nodded. "You're not greedy." She didn't take all of his things. Hearing this, Fengjie smiled but didn't say anything. Instead, he took out a bottle of elixirs. This bottle contains the strange fragrance elixir. It has the effect of repelling poison. "Immortal Lord, keep it too. I won't take advantage of you. I'll give you these 2 as well." Immortal Lord Ji Shui took Fengjie's elixirs and picked out 2 defensive magic tools for her. "Since that's the case, I'll accept them without hesitation." She smiled and put away the items, preparing to give some to Lung Hua and the others, so that they could protect themselves. "We're leaving tomorrow. Rest early tonight." Immortal Lord Ji Shui stood up and said to Xianyuan Mose, then turned and returned to the Ling residence. After Immortal Lord Ji Shui left, Fengjie took out the items from the space. "I bought some things when I came back. You can keep them in the space. They might be useful in the future. Also, I had someone make 10 sets of clothes for you a few days ago. I want to get them just now. Take them with you. Also, this is for you." She handed him a spirit fruit in an ice box. This is a spirit fruit from the bottle tree in the space. Old White ate one and mutated into a white dragon. Later, I looked into it and found that this fruit can increase the strength of beasts and cultivators. If they eat it, they can also increase the strength of cultivators. If they are lucky, they can even produce a mutated spirit root. A mutated spiritual root. Xianyuan Mose was slightly surprised. "Just this spiritual fruit?" "Well, I read about it in an ancient book, but I haven't eaten it myself, so I don't know if it's real or not. Moreover, there are only a few fruits on the vase tree. I learned from the ancient book that the vase tree blossoms and bears fruit every 100 years. At most, it can only bear a few fruits at a time. When you go overseas this time, find a chance to eat this spirit fruit and see its effect." "Yes." He nodded and said, "Don't let anyone else know about this fruit, lest you attract trouble." "I know," she replied softly. "You, on the other hand, have to be careful when you go overseas this time. Don't be careless, you have to come back safely to see me." Hearing this, Xianyuan Mose smiled and held her hand. "I know, don't worry." I asked the kitchen to prepare a few dishes. Let's go to the pavilion in front to eat. Fengjie suggested.
Okay.
He held her hand and walked out, walking around the garden in the courtyard before sitting down in the pavilion. The 2 chatted for a while, and not long after, the servants served a few dishes. The 2 enjoyed this moment of peace and quiet in the pavilion, and only returned to the courtyard to rest when the sky turned dark. Chapter 1993. Immortal Monarch. Zay went overseas with you. Although I don't know when he will return, I hope that no matter when he returns, he will be fine. She looked at immortal monarch Ji Shui and said. Hearing this, immortal monarch Ji Shui's eyes flashed. Don't worry. I will do my best to let him return safely. Xian Yuanmo's heard Fengjiu's words and felt a warm current in his heart. He reached out and hugged her, kissing her forehead. Don't worry. Don't worry about me. Just take care of yourself. You too. She reached out and hugged his waist, greedily smelling his scent. After a long time, she let go of him. Take care. Xian Yuanmo's looked at her deeply, then turned and left with his master. The two of them left the residence and flew on their swords, disappearing from sight in a short while Ghost Doctor. Don't worry. Master will definitely return safely. Hui Lang said from behind. He and Ying Yi were left behind, while Master left alone with immortal monarch Ji Shui. No one knew when he would return. Let's go back. Fengjiu said, then turned and returned to the residence. In the next few days, sometimes she would cultivate in the residence, sometimes she would go to the Heavenly Pill building to refine pills. The days gradually became busy. Other than the people from 100 Rivers City who came to the Heavenly Pill building to buy pills, people from other cities also came after hearing the news. However, at first, there were some ordinary people and cultivators who came. After a day or two, the people who came in and out gradually became people with status. This was because the Heavenly Pill building's pills were not cheap. Not to mention ordinary people, even some ordinary rogue cultivators could not afford to buy them. Not to mention the pills on the second floor that required some spiritual herbs with age rings to exchange. Most of the pills refined by Fengjiu were refined using dozens of precious spirit medicines, so the price naturally could not be close to the people. Furthermore, the Heavenly Dan building did not have low-grade pills and the like, so gradually, the Heavenly Dan building became a place where people with status came in and out. Master, the president of the Alchemy Guild is here again. He says he wants to see you. Leng Hua came to the backyard and said to his master, who was picking medicinal ingredients in the yard. No, Fengjiu said without raising his head. Hearing this, Leng Hua paused for a moment, then said, then this subordinate will reply to them. Although he felt that it would be best to meet with the president of the Alchemist Guild, it was obvious that his master wasn't interested in them. Only, he didn't know if his repeated rejections would cause them to harbor hatred in their hearts. After all, President Fan had already sought an audience with him many times. Just as Leng Hua turned to leave, Du Fan also walked in. Master, a person came today with a medicine request order. This is the medicine request order. Fengjiu glanced at the medicine order and asked, what medicine did that person ask for? As he spoke, his hands did not stop moving. The Heavenly Pill building had issued some medicine orders and medicinal pills. Anyone who had a medicine order or medicinal pill could come here to ask for the corresponding medicine as long as they prepared what she wanted. That person said that he could only tell you after seeing Master. Du Fan slightly lowered his head and said. Hearing this, Fengjiu stopped. She patted the dust on her hands and said unhurriedly, since that's the case, bring him in and let me see him. Chapter 1994. At this time, the president of the Alchemy Guild was chatting with the person who was asking for medicine. He looked at the medicine token in the other party's hand and couldn't help but be curious. I heard that the Heavenly Pill building doesn't give out many ghost medicine tokens. Since you're not from 100 River City, why do you have a medicine token? The person who was asking for medicine was a middle-aged man. Behind him were 4 powerful cultivators. Seeing that the other party was the president of the Alchemy Guild, he said, I spent a lot of money and effort to buy this from someone else. Although I'm not from 100 Rivers City, I heard that the ghost doctor of this Heavenly Pill building has great medical skills, so I'm here to see you.
I see.
President Fan nodded in realization. Then he saw Leng Hua walk out. He couldn't help but ask, Manager Leng, is the building lord willing to see me? President Fan, I'm really sorry, Leng Hua said apologetically. Hearing this, he couldn't help but feel disappointed. I know. The building lord has a guest today, so I'll come another day. I'll take my leave first. He cupped his hands and smiled at the middle-aged man before turning to leave. The The middle-aged man's eyes flashed. He didn't expect that the building lord of the Heavenly Pill Building, Ghost Dr. Fengjiu, would refuse to see the president of the Alchemy Guild. This surprised him. At this time, he wasn't surprised at all. If he didn't have the medicine token, he might not have been able to see the ghost doctor. At this time, Du Fan walked out and made a gesture to the middle-aged man. "Please follow me. Your servant will wait here for the time being." The middle-aged man said something to the people behind him, then followed Du Fan to the back. When he arrived at the backyard, he saw a woman in red picking medicinal herbs. Thinking of the description of the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, he knew that the woman in front of him was the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, the owner of the Heavenly Pill Building. "Greetings, ghost doctor." He stepped forward and cupped his hands. He didn't look down on her because she was a woman and was young. Fengjiu looked up at the person and said, "Please sit." She gestured to the table beside her, then put down what she was doing and took the medicine token to the table and sat down. Du Fan asked someone to serve 2 cups of tea, then stood quietly to the side. "What medicine do you want to ask for?" She played with the medicine token in her hand. She didn't ask about its origin or anything else, only what medicine he wanted. His tone was respectful and sincere as he said, "Ghost doctor, I'm here today to ask for medicine for my son. He came back a few months ago with injuries on his body. He didn't say anything, so we didn't pay much attention to it. However, after that, all his other injuries healed, but there was a burn wound that couldn't heal. No matter what medicine we used, it kept festering, and it's getting more and more serious now. Therefore, I would like to ask for a medicine that can heal my son's wound, and I hope that the ghost doctor can bestow the medicine. Burn, s wounds, ing. Ding medicine. T-Tess." She looked at the middle-aged man in front of her, who had an upright look between his eyebrows, and asked slowly, "Did your son come with you on this trip?" "Yes, but because his wounds are festering, I let him stay in a courtyard first. He didn't come with me to the Heavenly Pill Building." Chapter 1995. Hearing this, the middle-aged man was overjoyed. He quickly stood up and thanked him. "Then I'll go back and prepare now. I'll bring my son here in the afternoon." Fengjiu nodded and asked Du Fan to send him off. After the two of them walked out, Fengjiu went to see Elder Tan again. "Grandpa Tan, how are you today?" She came to the room and sat down. "I'm much better now. I can get out of bed and walk around," Elder Tan said as he looked at Fengjiu and said, "I really have to thank you this time. If it wasn't for you, I might not have been able to save my old life. Don't call me Grandpa Tan anymore. I really can't afford to be called Grandpa by you. If you think highly of me, just call me Elder Tan." She smiled and said, "Okay." She replied and then asked, "What are your plans for the future? If you don't have any other plans or places to go, you can actually stay here and help me." Hearing this, Elder Tan was surprised. "Can I? I can stay here?" He had no fixed residence and he couldn't go back to the place he used to be. If he could stay here with her, it would be a good home. "Of course you can. You can help me take care of some things here. It'll be easier for me to help you in the building." She smiled and said, "Then let's arrange it this way. You should recuperate first and stay in the Heavenly Pill Building in the future. At that time, I'll introduce you to some people in the building." Elder Tan couldn't hide his excitement. "My life is yours from now on." She saved him and gave him a home to return to. How could he not repay her well? Fengjiu stayed in the room for a while before leaving. After taking care of the matters in the backyard, she went to the attic to rest. In the afternoon, Lung Hua came and said that the people from the Gu family had come. In the backyard of the Heavenly Pill Building, in addition to the middle-aged man, there was another man in his 20s or 30s. The man was dressed in a navy blue robe. He was tall and sturdy, and his face was resolute. He was somewhat similar to the middle-aged man. At this time, he was sitting upright and drinking tea. His expression was calm and indifferent, as if he didn't care whether the injuries on his body could be cured or not. When Fengjiu came in, she saw the man in the navy blue robe. Even though the man was sitting upright, he gave off a very tall feeling. His figure was somewhat similar to her brother, Guan Xilin. What caught her attention the most was his calm and indifferent temperament. Ghost Doctor. When Patriarch Gu saw Feng Nine, he hurriedly got up and cupped his hands with a smile. This is my son, Gu Xiangyi. Seeing this, Gu Xiangyi stood up, but did not bow. She only nodded. Ghost Doctor. Then, he looked at Fengjiu calmly. Like many people, when he saw Fengjiu for the first time, he was stunned. However, Fengjiu noticed that other than being stunned when he saw her for the first time, he quickly returned to normal. He looked at her with appreciation. This kind of temperament and composure was rare. Ghost Doctor, it's like this. My son's injury is on his shoulder. Because of the severity of the injury, he can't feel his right hand, so. Patriarch Gu was explaining why his son didn't salute. Fengjiu smiled and said, It's okay.
Sit down.
She motioned for the two to sit down. Then, she said to Gu Xiangyi, Give me your hand. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.